You're listening to Ask When, the podcast. Folks from all walks of life talk about their daily hustle and bustle, living and celebrating life, sharing tips on becoming champions, especially for those who are muscling mental and physical disabilities. Ask When, the podcast, with your host who has mustered over 30 years living with cerebral palsy and going strong. Author and cerebral palsy advocate Wynn Charles. Ask When, the podcast starts right now.
Welcome to Ask When, everyone. And I don't know what day it is, but I have someone with me, Amy, who's out in California. We're both on the lockdown. We're a little confused, but that's okay. Right now, we're just trying to make it through the days as everyone else is. So without further ado, I'm going to let Amy take it away and explain more about what she does.
Oh, thank you, and I'm so happy to be here. I'm very honored to have this opportunity to chat with you. My name is Amy Airom. I am a mother of a 6-year-old and married to my husband in San Diego. So we're definitely in California lockdown right now. I have a business I started just about the same time my son was born, and it is social media marketing for life and business coaches. So I help with capitalized social media. I help life and business coaches connect with their audience and build their authority on Facebook and Instagram.
How cool is that? Now, I have a question for you, and then I'll be asking you more questions. But why did you choose those two platforms? You could have choose Twitter, you could have choose any of those platforms. But why did you yourself choose those two platforms to help your clients grow?
That's a really good question. That really actually dates back to when I first started my very first business. When my son was born, kind of giving you a little more history on that. I worked for Verizon in management for 15 years before I got pregnant and had my son. And when I got pregnant, me and my husband decided it was best that I be a stay-at-home mom. So I decided to do that. I quit my job when I had my son, and I stayed at home with him for 6 months, and I didn't do anything else except take care of him. And at that point, I thought that I needed something more in my life as far as like the business was concerned. So I started, my husband helped me start a business that was basically a blog that helped other people learn how to save money, called Couponing Works. It was a blog, a website, an email. We got all set up with that, and I connected with people to help them learn how to save money. And when that was in 2015, when I was trying to figure out how to get some more people paying attention to my blog and my website and go on my email list, I learned more about social media and how that could really connect with people and help them learn about my website. So I started using Facebook and Instagram specifically at that point. Those were the most prominent social media platforms that I knew about back then. And I created a Couponing Works account for both on Facebook and Instagram, and shared information and built relationships and met people online that wanted to learn more about what I did. And I got to know those social media platforms really, really well. And even though they changed so much, I really like to keep up to speed with how they were changing and use that to leverage my blog business. And then after 2 years of the blog and social media, I decided that I liked working with Facebook and Instagram so much that I started helping other business owners learn how to use Facebook and Instagram to help their business. So I got to learn those platforms really well and was able to keep up on the changes quite a bit. And after I did that, I realized I liked it so much, I just kind of dropped my blog and went towards social media. And through Facebook and Instagram. I just kept doing that. From a consumer standpoint, both of those platforms are, you go on there as a consumer to socialize, but as a business, you go there to kind of break into the conversation and educate people and inform them about what benefits you have of your business. And I've just continued that way, basically. So that's how I got started. And I've in the last 8-9 months or so, I've really tried to figure out what niche I want to work with, and the clients that I end up really being drawn to and really enjoying the results and helping them with those platforms has been life and business coaches. So that's kind of my story. That was a really good question and a really long answer.
Well, that's okay. Why did you decide life and business coaches? I mean, you're talking about two opposite ends of the spectrum. You're talking about people that are dealing with other people's problems, and you're talking about people that are dealing with other people's businesses and along with their own. And so why did you focus on those two niches?
That's a really good question too. I love your questions. So I chose those two because, number one, in social media, there is a lot of marketers and social media experts out there, and I really wanted to differentiate myself in choosing a specific area, specific market that I could really help people. So when I was thinking of that, I personally was looking at, all of the clients that I had and figuring out which ones I really enjoyed their content, right? Because if I'm going to be working with them, helping them develop their content, I want to enjoy that content, right? And I was really drawn. I've always call myself like a personal development geek. I love learning about myself. I love learning about other people, and I love learning, like you're doing, hearing other people's stories. And I really enjoy inspiring people and developing our minds to just grow continuously. And that's when I really realized that I loved, the life coaching industry, and then also the business coaching, because, in the grand scheme of things, both of those niches are people helping other people with different areas of their life and then their business. So those are things that when I take on these clients and it helps them, I get to learn a lot from it too. So that's kind of how I decided to go those directions.
And if you had to move, what three things would you take with you?
Definitely my family, my husband and my son. Got to bring them with me, definitely. What else would I bring? Oh goodness, there's not a lot that takes for me to be happy, and that's kind of what I've, especially through this coronavirus challenge. There isn't a whole lot. I love people, and I love connecting with people, whether it be online or in person or over, podcasts like this. So if I take my closest family with me, and I take the things that allow me to connect with other people, which I suppose would be my phone, especially because that's, another way to connect on FaceTime and on phone calls and on social media. So I love people and I love connecting with them. So I guess I'd also have to take my phone. And then probably some kind of charger to make sure my phone always gets charged, because I thrive on personal connections. I'm the extreme version of an extrovert if there ever is one.
I know I thrive on personal connections myself. And you guys, I am going to start not only sending you text messages, but I decided this last night that due to what we're all going through right now, social isolation, I decided to pick up the phone with each and every one of my podcast guests who is coming on my podcast, and just have a genuine conversation with them before we actually do the podcast to make sure that they're okay. Because the two powerful words are "How are you?" via phone, and the two powerful words are "I love you" and "Thank you." And over the weekend, I got a house scare. Had to be rushed to my local emergency room, and
Oh
yeah,
no.
that was fun. But I said thank you to the doctor who saw me and the nurse that actually the two nurses that saw me, and they almost fell over in a dead faint when I come in with a head injury, and um I say thank you for seeing me, because right now we're dealing with a shortage of masks, we're dealing with a shortage of everything. So the
Mhm.
two powerful words right now over the phone that you can say to anyone is thank you and how are you and I love you if they're close to you, or just check in with people. So that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do over the next couple months, is to call each and every one of my podcast guests, and so you can get me authentically.
Oh, that's a really great idea. I think in this time now more than ever, it's so important to connect with people. I know I'm calling my family, which I usually, talk to once a week or once every couple weeks, like every other day, and just having, keeping that line of communication open, making sure they're okay, making, messaging and calling my friends that, we don't usually talk to as much. So I think if anything, this is just giving us the opportunity to connect even more and just being more aware and just making that just a special experience as much as we can as we're staying in our quarantine spaces.
I definitely agree. I definitely agree. And now, Amy, if you had a close friend write a book about you, what would the title be?
Oh, I love that question too. I would say the title of my book would be, in one word, persistence. I think throughout my life and all the things that I've done, the only time anything has ever stopped is if I gave up. And I think with anything, if you ever have your mind set on something and you want to do it, you can do it. You will find a way. It's always possible, unless you give up. So the key is never give up. Keep going. Keep taking that step forward, and persistence in that regard. If something is weighing on you and you really want to do it, you just can't you can't keep up. Just persist through, step forward, keep moving, and wonderful things can happen.
Persistence. So the book title would be Persistence. Now,
Yeah.
could you give us a morning rituals and your daily routine pre lockdown and post lockdown to see how it's changed?
Sure. Oh, exactly. Good question. So before I this happened, I was pretty strict to our routine. I would, wake up before my son woke up, and he's in my room right now. So that's definitely a change up to our routine usually, because he's usually at school. So, but before this, I would wake up, 6:30 or so before he wakes up at 7. So I have a few minutes to myself, and then, from 7 to 8, it's getting him ready to go, making his lunch, and taking him to school. And I come back from there about 9 o'clock, and that's when my work day starts. And he's at school most days until 3 o'clock. So I work until about 1:30, have lunch, clean up the house, and pick him up. That was a few weeks ago now, and now, it's we're hoping to get to bed at a decent hour, and that's really what we're working on for our routine, to make sure that the morning routine ends up to be that way, because that's a big determining factor on if we have a routine, a good routine in the morning, as if we have a good routine at night. So that routine is, making sure that we go to bed at the same time, wake up around the same time, and then he has some schoolwork that he has to do. But I'm really lucky. We're both really lucky. My husband's working at home too now, and he's 6 years old, and he's very independent right now. And all I need to do is give him a list of activities for him to do, and I'll say like 30 minutes, read a book, 30 minutes, play with Play-Doh, at 30 minutes, I got to throw in video games for once in a while, 30 minutes video games. If he has something that he wants to do, looking forward to that. And he takes a timer. He has a digital timer, and he sets his timer and he goes through his list. So the routine is definitely different, but we've adapted very well, and we're really lucky. And, we're just staying inside as much as possible to get through this as quickly as possible, hopefully. Yeah. How about you? How has your routine changed?
Oh, my routine, I have been on lockdown personally since March 9th. And before social distancing, before state mandates. And so my routine and the big news is I quit my job because my job didn't tell me what was going on. Wow. They were on spring break. They said, and I quote, that my ex-job now said to me, well, on spring break, we have no protocol for coronavirus and educating the kids. And I thought, okay, that's a little weird. And I thought, okay. And then I said, but social isolation, we agree, is the best for you because I have cerebral palsy and I'm on the CDC list of high risk coronavirus. So later I find out from a friend / colleague, more a friend than a colleague, that they are doing online learning and they do have a protocol in place. I'm like, I found this out because this friend of mine snuck on my Facebook and she commented. And I'm like, okay, they just didn't want to tell me what they were doing. And so I said, bye guys, you have lost a teacher / advocate in this whole coronavirus thing because you guys didn't, well, school districts can't prepare, but at least they could have told me what was going on. And so, yeah. So, anyway, I'm a solo now and a content creator and trying to make an income. And so we'll see. And if I have to go back to work, I have to go back to work. But so far, I'm working out of my house and it's working well because although the the social distancing thing is driving me nuts, and not so much the social isolation thing. I'm such a homebody anyway that I can work from home. It's the social distancing with family members that's driving me nuts.
Definitely. I am with you for sure. It's, with my family, I know we don't have much family close by, so we're taking the precautions that we can, but I can understand if you're used to seeing your family on a regular basis in person and then all of a sudden you can't, that's really, really hard. So I wonder, after this is all hopefully passed sooner than later, how much different the world is going to be afterwards, realizing that many of these people's jobs can be remote that are they going to continue that way, or are there going to be more flexible options? I'm wondering how that's going to change. I know there's going to be some pretty big, significant changes afterwards. I think about what that's going to look like. What do you think?
I think that, and watch as I say this, you guys, because I think that most people are going, for the exception of educators, but most people who are in multi-level marketing, let's throw that out as an example. Multi-level marketing is going to get stronger because of this going on, and a lot of jobs are going to open up working remotely because of people. Offices don't want to pay the rent. Offices don't want to pay time in, time out to the meetings. And so if the internet can handle it now, on March 25th, 2020, I think there's going to be a lot of remote workers and positions opening up.
I agree. I know that when I first started my business, and when I first quit my job, I was looking for anything that I could do to work from home, and realizing that my skill set didn't have. I was in-person sales and management. It was really hard for me to find anything with working from home opportunities of skills that would convey. And that's ultimately why I started my own blog, and then I taught myself how to build WordPress websites. I taught myself how to send out email newsletters. I learned, like I told you, all about Facebook and Instagram, and connected with people that helped me learn more about that. And I worked really, really hard to develop a remote work opportunity for myself as a business. But not everybody, number one, not everybody wants to do that. Not everyone can do that. And there wasn't a lot of remote opportunities then. So the mission of my business has always been, creating flexible part-time work, remote work opportunities specifically for stay-at-home parents, but for anybody that wants the opportunity to have some flexible work that they can do from home, that I can teach them and support them as well. And so it's just very ironic now that we're in a situation where almost everybody is working. So many people are working from home, and it's eye-opening to see that. Hopefully it's eye-opening for these employers to realize that there is an opportunity to work from home, and that parents that want to be more available and have more flexible schedules for themselves or anybody might be able to do this as a result of this whole coronavirus thing.
And I have a huge announcement later on this week, you guys. I have a huge announcement that I have decided, because of this whole coronavirus thing, and because of my work now as a content creator, and I will just leave it at that. But I am still working on my journalism degree online. My school was originally online, so my school didn't change, and I know a lot of schools did, and K through 12 did, and college level did, but my school didn't. But I have a huge announcement that won't shock you guys necessarily. So, Amy, as we wrap this interview up, do you have any questions for me?
Yes, I was really interested. There's a lot of forms of medium out in the world right now, and I wanted to know more about your podcast, why you decided to start your podcast, and how. I don't know anything about starting a podcast. I know about video and Facebook Live and all that kind of stuff, but how many new skills did you have to learn to be able to put this podcast together, I guess would be my question. So why in the journey that it took you?
Well, I wrote a book back in 2010. I self-published that book, and that book is going to be about 10 years old now. And I thought, well, how the heck am I going to market this book? And that was at the original book, the original time of publishing. I thought, okay, I'll start a podcast. And then I'm like, okay, I don't want to do it on cerebral palsy because cerebral palsy is nice and boring and that will put listeners to sleep. And so I would just, um, I thought, okay, I'm going to interview people that I look up to, and I'm going to interview people that are thought leaders and make a niche for myself and intertwine my story with their story as well.
That's great. That's a great idea because you're learning about them and it's giving you publicity and them. It's cross marketing. That's a great idea. So how long did it take you from the time that you had the idea to the time that you started your podcast? How long was it and what did it take for you to do it?
A couple months, and it takes RSS feed. I use Libsyn, Lybsyn, and I'm happy to show you guys how to set up a podcast while we're all at home. Because as I said to someone yesterday, and you'll hear that part was recorded, I said, well, if your colleagues are sick and tired of you talking about a certain subjects, those of you who were in the workforce, and now you want to start a podcast, at least come up with the ideas to start a podcast. Because what I'm noticing, Amy, is that I can't do a Facebook Live right now to save my life. I tried twice now, you guys, and it just backfired on me because and I have a huge Facebook following and a huge Twitter following and a huge Periscope following, but I'm realizing that podcasting is the way to go because a lot of people can listen to a podcast while they're doing something else. With video and with Instagram stories, they need to open up the app, focus, and a podcast is similar to music. You can just have my voice on in background and pick up tips from me and little doses of inspiration. And now with the Amazon smart speakers, I taught a friend of mine to use an Amazon smart speaker for her own purposes, and she just loves it. And it's like, really. So now with the Amazon smart speakers, with all the media consumption, and with the internet being hogged right now by people working, by people doing stuff for pleasure, I feel like the podcasting is the way to go.
I think that's great. I think, yeah, definitely you should pick the medium that you feel most comfortable and that you feel like you can reach the most audience and just go with that. I think that's awesome. I tossed up the idea between a podcast and a Facebook Live show. And ultimately what made the decision for me was that, I think that I had a lot of good success with my clients that did go on video. So it was more so me practicing what I'm preaching of, you need to be on video, clients. And, I had to do the same thing to show them how to do it and that it can be done and, give them that confidence and set an example. So I might do a podcast later. I'll have to ask you how you did it. But for now, Facebook Live is where where I am. So I think congratulations on your success. Really good. I'm really proud of you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And it's getting bigger and bigger every day because of people being at home and people being at home, and it's getting bigger and bigger every day. And it's really amazing to see the power of podcasting.
It is. It is neat to see how it's evolving, and there's so much awesome content out there. So, including yours. So, like I said, good job and thank you. I really appreciate having me on. This was a lot of fun, and I loved learning more about you.
And Amy, where can people find you if they choose to work with you?
Definitely on my Facebook page, Capitalize Social Media, and that's my primary place to find me is on Facebook.
So Capitalize Social Media, you guys. And Amy is so specific, working with life coaches and business coaches. And as I said, I will have a not so shocking announcement for you guys near the end of the week if I can get it together. And I will still be continuing on my journalism degree. Don't worry about that. But I am thinking that I should pivot again and do something more impactful for you guys. And so that's where I'll leave it. And thank you, Amy, for coming on. And I hope you guys enjoyed another fabulous episode of Ask Win. Thanks, Amy. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
You just listened to Ask Win, the podcast. To become a guest in the show, visit our website at askwin.weebly.com or call 816-591-3399. Just look for Danielle. Connect with Win on Twitter at WinKellyCharles and like our Facebook page at Butterflies of Wisdom. You can also purchase Win's book through Amazon.com or get a copy of the audiobook through Audible. Ask Win, the podcast.